And welcome to Game Changers live from Miami, Florida, wherever you may be and wherever you may be listening. You can catch us every Tuesday on Facebook Live, on YouTube Live, on LinkedIn, on Spotify and Google Podcasts. And each and every week, we bring you someone who has been a game changer in their field and who's touched the lives of thousands. And to get their perspective on their journey, their mindset, their struggles and their successes, so we can inspire you on your journey. And so if you like what you hear, please subscribe and share this or any of the great episodes with someone who needs to hear it. You can find them all on gamechangerslive.co or on the YouTube channel as well. So I have a very special guest here today. Joining me live on Game Changers is none other than the local hometown success story, Judge Christine Bandín. Welcome.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me, for inviting me. It's quite an opportunity and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So little background. So Judge Bandin currently, she presides in the Domestic Violence Division of the 11th Judicial Circuit in Miami-Dade, where she's just been elected recently in the recent election with over 250,000 votes, which is spectacular. Judge Bandin has been a model in the Miami-Dade community all her life. She was born and raised here. She took pride in capitalizing on every educational opportunity the community had to offer. So she attended Lourdes Academy. So many of you know about Lourdes. And she went on to earn a bachelor's degree in business administration from FIU in 2001. She also served as a comptroller for Miami Law Women, an organization that encompasses students with similar beliefs and goals for the advancement of women within the legal profession. And upon accomplishing her education, she was admitted into the Florida Bar Association, accompanied by the Dade County Bar Association and the Cuban American Bar Association. Plenty of bars to go around. And she was recognized as a rising star by the Florida Super Lawyers, a distinction earned by no more than the top 2.5% of young practicing attorneys. And finally, she was appointed by Governor Rick Scott in October 2018 and recently won her seat in the most recent election. She's a genuine, kind, and admirable leader and also an amazing mom. So welcome to the show, Judge Bandin.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. Like I said before, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to share my experiences with you and whoever's listening and whoever I can help, pave the path. That would be wonderful.
So you've had obviously a tremendous career and upbringing. Take me back to your childhood and kind of, the way you were raised. And did you always want to become a judge? Is that something that you aspired to be as a fifth grader?
No, I aspired to be an attorney as a fifth grader. I had that background in me. My mother and I would debate all the time. For anybody who grew up in Miami, if they're aware of the show Que Pasa USA, that was my life. The chaperoning, the overprotective mom who I love dearly. But it was a challenge. So she and I would debate. And I, at a very young age, wanted to be an attorney. That was the goal that I had wanted originally. The judge, I never even thought about that until later on in life.
So negotiating with your mom as to whether you can have a curfew of midnight instead of 10 p.m. Were you winning those battles or not?
I wasn't, but I'm just going to say I was crafty. We're just going to leave it at that.
Excellent. And then, growing up, you went to Lourdes, you went to FIU, you were very involved there. Tell me about that time.
So I went to Lourdes. It is an all-girls school. It's a school that's actually dedicated to community service. So that's where my original desire or liking to public service kind of began without actually realizing it. I didn't actually realize that I enjoyed public service at the time. I just knew what felt good. So from a humanistic perspective. So I went to Lourdes and then I went to FIU. I did join a sorority and my sorority sisters were actually quite amazing during my election. We did have a couple of philanthropic things that we dealt with, or we had anorexia nervosa being one of them, cystic fibrosis being another. And that was my path in the beginning, high school and college. And then I went to University of Miami for law school.
So you were following the breadcrumbs, so to speak. You're following what felt good, right?
In that, well, I always knew I wanted to be an attorney, and life, certain things were placed in my lap to a certain extent. I made choices, obviously, but I knew that the public service world was the area I kind of wanted to develop into. And what I mean by that is, although I did want to be an attorney originally, I thought I would be a prosecutor or a U.S. attorney or an FBI agent. So all in the public service realm.
Excellent, excellent. And so then you went on to Law School. You started practicing, right? And you've held several positions, including partner at some firms. What has been the most challenging thing you've had to face as either an attorney or a judge in your lifetime? And how did you get past that?
So, as an attorney, I would say getting that first job right out of law school, that was difficult. And they tell you, which I did. They tell you, don't take the first job out of law school. You don't actually learn in law school what you're going to practice. Everything you learn in law school is textbook. You don't really learn the practice of law until you're in the practice of law. So I took my first job at a private firm. And I will tell you that despite the fact that it wasn't my favorite job, I learned a lot. But that was the most challenging, as far as just going from school to a firm, billing and getting used to that mind frame was challenging, really.
Yeah. And so what could you advise? Like if you're a college student, you're getting out of college right now, you're obviously into a very difficult time, much different than when you came out and when we came out. What advice can you give to them to get them to persevere and to not get down on themselves if things don't happen the way it's supposed to happen?
Keep trying. Ultimately, keep trying. I didn't go to law school, so when I graduated from FIU, I actually took some time off. I didn't go to law school because I don't remember the exact score that I got on the LSAT, but I don't remember that it was something that I, at the time, along with my writing assignment, which I don't remember, so long ago, I remember that I didn't get in originally to which is where I wanted to go, and I had to put it off for a year, and I ended up working. So you try again, and you try until you achieve and you perfect, and you make yourself better to the point where you get where you want to get. You just keep trying. This world is different. It's incredibly challenging to be in this virtual world. You have to be dedicated in a way that I don't think a lot of people are dedicated. It's very difficult to sit in front of a computer screen and learn. Not everybody can do that. But the point is, you need to persevere. These are the lemons that you were handed, and you just have to go with it and just push through it, and it'll get better.
And so a lot of people are out of their comfort zone right now with everything going on, either COVID or being, out of the market. They get fired, they have to reset. And it put people in very uncomfortable, positions, right? Just emotionally, mentally, self-confidence wise. You've been one who you've always pushed yourself, your limits, your comfort zone. And when we push hard enough, we get into what's called the imposter syndrome, where we kind of, start doubting ourselves and say, what are we doing here? Do I really belong in this space? Has that ever crossed your mind? Have you ever encountered that?
During the election process, that was the most unless you were in that world, because it's countywide, and when you think, oh, well, countywide isn't that big of a deal, countywide is very large. And in COVID, where you can't really campaign in the way you normally would, there was plenty of times where I kind of threw my hands up and said, I can't do this anymore. And then I would give myself 5 or 10 minutes of sulking, of crying, of venting. And then, I've also surrounded myself with a village who helped me and who allowed me to vent and then pushed me back up and said, you're at the finish line. Just you're going to do it. Just keep pushing.
That's right. Yeah. Having that support network is incredibly helpful when you're in that position. But you know what, when you don't have it, let's say you don't have that huge network that you were, so thankful to have. What can others do to get, when did you find yourself at some point in your life, that you kind of felt by yourself and you were just, you had to pick yourself back up, right?
You embrace whatever it is. And I've had friends ask me the same thing. You have to find your happy place, whatever that happy place is. For me, I actually would go to church. That was my happy place. I would sit in church and just cry, and then bring myself up and put myself together. For one of my friends, it was meditation. It was just sit in a room, turn everything off, and just close your eyes and breathe. You have to, I guess, the beginning, before you get to the point where you're breaking down, you have to find that one place, that one thing that's going to bubble back, whatever it is, that one thing that you can always go back to, where you can just kind of break down for a minute. It'll help you pick yourself back up, and you go. Breathing is also very important. Just taking a second and breathe really deeply for 2 minutes, it does a lot.
Absolutely. And so that's interesting, having that anchor place, kind of your happy place, where you can kind of go and let and cry it out, so to speak, right? Just kind of let all that out. You feel better, and then kind of pick yourself back up and get after your goals.
Yeah. Everybody has those moments. We're all human. And as humans, we all have those moments where you're thinking, I've been taken to the breaking point and I can't do this anymore. And you're allowed to, I mean, I'm saying break down, not break down, but you're allowed to have that moment of, I can't do this anymore, and just do your thing. But as long as you know that you ultimately, once you've let go of those emotions, you're going to pick yourself up and you're just going to keep going, because you can. You absolutely can. You just need to keep on pushing.
And so the process of, if you read Carol Dweck's work, Dr. Carol Dweck, she has a book called Mindset, and it's talking about growth mindsets and fixed mindsets. And so the main difference is that fixed mindsets feel like they are who they are, and they can't necessarily grow past who they are, and they're always going to be who they are. And obviously growth mindsets are looking at, falling in love with the process of growth that involves falling, that involves getting hurt, that involves risk, as opposed to just the result. Because if we hang all our eggs on the result that's out of our control, we may be putting ourselves out there at somebody else's, will, and basically, we're not in control of that result. But if we're in control of the process, in terms of, the grind, the everyday, the small things that we do every day that we have control over, I think life becomes a lot better. And so what are some things that you do every day that help you grow, that help you stay sane, that help you stay balanced? What are some of those things that you do?
Some of the things that I do to help me stay balanced is really just making sure that I have a schedule that somewhat gives me balance. I do have a 5-year-old daughter that I come home to, and that's my level of balance. I as much as I enjoy my job, and I really do, I love my job. At the end of the day, I need a break, and that is my break. So just finding a way to fit whatever your break might be into your life. Growth also, by the way, includes failing. And as long as you can accept that you can fail, and make it a teaching moment, make it something that you learn from, so that you can then be better, so that you don't fail again, is also part of the process. I did not find campaigning comforting. I actually am an introvert by nature. I don't like interviewing. This is not my favorite thing in the world by any stretch of the imagination. And I had to embrace it. And it was either embrace it or fail. And the first interview or two, I considered them failures, because I was not articulate. I was nervous. I mixed up my words. But I went back, I looked at the video, I fixed my language. They were Spanish interviews. I'm not as great in Spanish. And I learned from it. And then as I continued to do something that I felt completely uncomfortable with. I got better at it. I don't love it. And I can't tell you that I'm ever going to love it. I don't think that this is my world, but I like sharing my experiences with other people because I know that other people don't like this either.
Exactly. And it's funny because you're a judge and you're sitting there on the bench in front of everybody in the spotlight, yet you don't like to be interviewed. So it's kind of a contradiction. So
I know. I tell people all the time, my courtroom is my home. I don't see anybody outside of the two parties that are in front of me, and maybe they're attorneys. And even sometimes I ignore the attorneys because it's really about the parties, although they don't want to hear that. It's my home. It's a different feel. I don't know.
That's cool. So we're on with Judge Christine Bandín from the 11th Judicial Circuit here in Miami-Dade County. So very happy to have her on the show. And so we're talking about, her journey and her obstacles and how do you overcome some fears and some things that we were just mentioning right now. And so, one of the things that I do and I advise my clients to do at the end of every day is to look back at your day and celebrate your wins. Because a lot of times we just pass over our wins way too quickly and we focus in on what we did wrong. Oh, that interview, I didn't say something right in that interview. Oh, I sounded bad. And we tend to beat ourselves up. And we beat ourselves up probably much more than we recognize ourselves in terms of our successes and our wins. And so as a mom, how do you do that with your kids, with your daughter, for example? Are there things that you would recommend to parents to help them also improve their kids' self-image and how they feel about themselves and celebrating their wins with them?
So first, that's an excellent idea. I've never thought about it that way, and that is a phenomenal idea. I love that. As far as my daughter goes, raising children is hard.
Very hard.
But it's it's very hard. And there are days that you're like, I'm tired. But your win is your child's win, and your child's win is yours.
That's right.
So my daughter last night said she loves Halloween, so do I. So she was very excited because she did a pumpkin out of Play-Doh and she wanted it to dry. And so I celebrated with her. She was so happy about it that it was like her happiness made me happy. And then, so that made it all better for me. So essentially it's just remembering that the small things, as small as it might be, is a win no matter what.
Absolutely. And those small things really carry forward in their minds as they grow up. And that builds confidence. There's building blocks, right? Every day. And what we say counts. I mean, it's really important what we say. And, one of the things you mentioned is just sometimes you come home from work and you're tired and you're frustrated, you're beat up. And the last thing you want to do is it's very hard to switch, right? Flip the switch, but we have to be careful what we say because that sticks in their minds.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't really, I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where there has to be a lot of self-reflection. You have to do a lot of self-reflection so you don't let your aggravation translate, because then you end up apologizing to the child for doing something that you didn't intend to do. But I don't know.
It's tough. So as we start wrapping this up, what has been the game changer for you, in your life? What was that one defining moment where things really just clicked, or they changed, or you found this inspiration that has taken you through today?
So it's very difficult to say that there was one defining moment, because there really wasn't there wasn't one solitary defining moment. There was a number of things that happened that changed my course from being an attorney to being a judge, stemming from interning with late Judge Roberto Piñeiro, who I interned. I had no real, this was not at all what I was looking at. And he was such a great mentor to me, and taught me how to see world from a judge's perspective, which is very different. So it was that small piece. And then after that, I entered with the state attorney's office and was with another judge. And then finally, one of my colleagues introduced me to what the Judicial Nominating Commission is, and the JNC process and the application process. And so there was a couple of steps that led me into this direction. I guess the only one defining moment, which is really an experience that I had with one particular judge. I was in front of one particular judge, I think right out of law school. It may have been, I had started working at a firm for 2 weeks, and we went in front of the judge, and the attorney started arguing, and the judge stopped the attorney and said, well, I don't know what the facts of this case are. And the attorney said, well, it's in my motion. And her response was, well, I don't read those. And I thought to myself, this can't be right. Like, this just can't be right. So that experience is where the initial, that is not the attitude to take for a judge came from. And then everything just worked out the way that it needed to.
And so when you were interning with this gentleman who was the mentor for you, is that when it clicked for you and you said, oh, wow, I can be a judge? That's something real for me, that this could happen.
It kind of did. It kind of did. I would continue to visit him through when, because he did pass away earlier on in life because of a heart attack. But so I continued to visit him. I interned with him during law school, and I continued to go see him when he changed from the civil division to the family division. And he really did. He kind of pushed me in that direction without pushing me. He made me aware of how amazing of a job it is. He was a great judge.
Fantastic. Well, Christine, this has been a pleasure having you on Game Changers. I've loved this. You've had a tremendous insights as to, everything from your journey to being a mom, to some advice for graduating, seniors out of college who are looking to enter the game, enter the workforce. It's been tremendous. So thank you so much for being on. And if you like this episode and you like other episodes of Game Changers, make sure to get us on Spotify or Google Podcasts. Also, gamechangerslive.co, as well as the YouTube channels. Be sure to subscribe and share this with a friend who wants to hear this, who you think it'd be valuable to. So again, thank you so much, Christine. It was great having you on. And
thank you.
Soon.
And thank you for your time and letting me on and letting me speak. I appreciate it.
For sure. Take care.
You too.